At PG, we work with creators to do qualitative research, focus groups, conversations, that kind of thing, to then apply that to our clients' marketing strategies.
Why do we use creators?
They understand their audiences like the best of anyone that we could get to speak to, so they give us really great insights.
They also view things through a commercial lens as well, so that it's actually applicable for businesses to take away and action straight away, and still have that commercial lens to all of the advice and feedback that they provide.
If you are just basing a campaign on assumptions about groups of people, or you kind of don't have that real insight that you're building on first, then your message might not resonate and it might just not hit, and it won't reach the people that you're wanting it to reach.
Hello and welcome back to the Purple Goat podcast. Today's episode is all about creator insights, what it is and how we do it at Purple Goat. I'm Dani, the campaigns director, and I'm here with Steph.
Hi, I'm Steph. I'm Senior Performance Manager here at PG.
Perfect. So, what is creator insights?
So at PG, we work with creators to do qualitative research, focus groups, conversations, that kind of thing, to then apply that to our clients' marketing strategies.
Nice. And why do we use creators?
So we use creators because they're generally really ingrained within their communities and trying to get more disabled representation. Those are really key communities and groups to tap into. So they make for really great kind of spokespeople for those communities, and they understand their audiences like the best of anyone that we could get to speak to, so they give us really great insight.
Nice. I guess they're like consultants in their own right.
Yeah, and a lot probably do consultancy work as well, so they're very used to putting things into kind of actionable, tangible phrasing that like clients are really able to use and go forward in their kind of marketing.
They also view things through a commercial lens as well, so that it's actually applicable for businesses to take away and action straight away, and still have that commercial lens to all of the advice and feedback that they provide.
Yeah, for sure, because they're kind of on both sides of it. So they're creating their own content and engaging with their audiences, and then they're also members probably of that community that you're trying to target or reach out to or resonate with, so they can kind of see it from a really interesting perspective from both sides.
Perfect.
I think creator insights can really benefit a campaign, because if you potentially are just basing a campaign on assumptions about groups of people, or you kind of don't have that real insight that you're building on first, then your message might not resonate and it might just not hit the note that you're trying to hit, and it won't reach the people that you're wanting it to reach. So when you start with insights, when you have that data kind of driving a campaign, then you're much more likely to have success. It'll be more authentic and it'll reach the people that you're trying to talk to.
You kind of touched on it there a little bit, but how important is it that brands actually invest in insights up front instead of trying to retrofit and add it on once kind of the creative and that process has already been completed?
I mean, hugely, because if you're not basing it in that to begin with, then you're always going to be starting from a point of assumption. And it's so much easier to build something or craft something around the insight when you have it. If you speak to a community, you find out what they want, what they like, what they resonate with, what they don't, and then you can use that as your building block rather than trying to retrofit it, which never works out smoothly.
Of course. How important is it that obviously when a brand agrees to do insights and stuff, that they actually listen to the community and are vulnerable enough to have that open conversation and implement any changes and recommendations that the community provides?
I mean, yeah, really important, because if you're not going to take on the feedback, then there's kind of no point getting the insights to start with, because you have to kind of come into it with a little bit of vulnerability and a curiosity to learn, and you kind of have to accept that you might need to get out of your box of what you think, or you might need to shake things up a little bit and just be kind of willing and open to learning something new and adapting based on that. Because yeah, if you're not driving the decision, with insight, then, or if you're not going to listen to the insight when you get it, then there's kind of no point asking the question, because sometimes asking and then not doing is worse than not asking.
Fair. Yeah, I get that. Do you have any good examples of brands that have like done insights and like taken on that feedback and then actually implemented change upon that and changed the way that they talk about their brand or a specific marketing campaign?
I think probably one of the biggest ones, or the coolest ones, to see kind of be shaped was Channel 4 for their Paralympic ads that came out for Paralympic Paris 2024, mouthful. So they were working with Purple Goat for a couple of years, I think even before the Paralympics, to really like shape the creative. They came with like kind of initial ideas, and they were really open to like the community feeding back and feeding into where that creative eventually led. And then we had a couple of kind of roundtable conversations with the community, getting feedback. And that was a really good example of seeing something come from a start point and work kind of all the way through. And from the roundtables to then seeing the finished ad, being able to pick out things that I know people said in the roundtable and see those elements adding into the creative, or seeing how they tweak certain lines so that you could really literally see it in real time, kind of shaping the finished product.
Yeah, I think with C4 it's also really cool because if you zoom out even further, you can see the complete narrative change from like the Superhuman campaign way back in 2012 to where we are today. And it was just, yeah, like really nice to see that change and that development. And like you can really see that the community's been involved in that process as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think the whole like narrative, like that was, and wanting to change that was also rooted in like community feedback. So to then take those steps and make quite, I think, a drastic change from like previous versions, and to want to do that, it just, yeah, speaks volumes for sure.
Yeah, nice. We got a lot of love for the C4 campaign this
Always.
year. If a brand approached PG today and they said, like, we want to do some insights, what would be your suggestion on like where they should start and what that process of gathering those insights should look like?
I mean, it obviously depends on the kind of insight they want to uncover, like what the goal is of the research. Like it's always got to be kind of like tailored to what the client is wanting the end result to be, or what they're specifically wanting to look at. To just look at it broadly, I mean, I love a round table because you get like loads of different dynamic people around a table. You can get lots of different like representation, and you kind of watch the conversation like spark, and you watch people kind of pick up off each other, and like you get to like really kind of watch that grow and like shape the conversation, which can be really powerful. I also love interviews because you can go like a lot more zoomed in with like one specific person if you have a more specific goal of your research. If you're wanting to look at something more closely in a lot more detail, then interviews are always going to be really good.
I think for me, like, I always love to start with that quantitative data, start with a big survey and get like a really broad picture of like what things are looking like within whatever topic or area we're investigating, so to speak, because then I think it like really sets the groundwork for like going in and having those more qual conversations and getting that more in-depth information from people.
Yeah, if you can have the balance of both, it's always perfect, because the quant side of things in surveys, they're great for getting like broader kind of stats, but you can't always get to the why, or I try to sometimes in surveys, but it's tricky when you only have 15 questions and you're trying to like keep responses like motivated. So even you start with that, and then you can take that and then apply that into a conversation with people, and you can start to unpick the stats and hear some of the stories behind why that might be and whether they resonate with that. And then you can really kind of like paint the whole picture.
So as you've just said, it's really important to have the quant and qual data, like, but why is that so important for a client? Why should they always consider trying to get both types of data instead of just one or the other?
I think both can definitely have their pros, but like they can equally have a few cons. But when you bring the two together, you're kind of covering all the bases. So you get both sides of the story. You get the kind of broader stats that you can use, like kind of more widely applicable to see broader patterns. But then you can also zoom in and you can see some really kind of personal stories and narratives that help support that through like lived experience. And I think particularly what we do at PG, often talking within the disabled community, in a survey it can be quite hard to pinpoint all of those nuances and understand them all, especially because in surveys we're often looking at 10, 11 different kind of sub-communities within that survey, and it's just quite difficult to convey all of the things that we want to find out within that survey. But it's great to have them as a starting point, and then you can build on that and have those more nuanced conversations where the kind of intricacies of it can be discussed in more detail.
So once we've got all that incredible data in, we've got like the numbers from the quant data, and we've got all the incredible stories from the creators that we've worked with, what do we actually do with all of that? Like, what do the next steps actually look like?
So then I go into my analysis hole. And for the qualitative, it's all about kind of theming, categorizing, sentiment, you know, pulling out like those key bits throughout, like those real kind of like little nuggets that were through the conversation, which we usually have quite a good eye for just hearing when we're talking about it with people as well. But we kind of go and like pour through all of the transcripts and like run those all through and pull out all the kind of the key themes and all the like key bits of information that are going to be most useful. As we've kind of said, creators are generally very good at packaging up their opinions and thoughts and feedback into quite actionable packages for brands anyway. So they generally do make our lives quite a lot easier as well. And then when it comes to surveys, it's just a lot of spreadsheets. It's a lot. It's a huge amount that I am not going to bore everyone with now. But I would just go into Google Sheets for days on end.
Yeah.
Essentially. And then once I've come out with all of the kind of key findings, like, again, like just kind of going through the survey and like pulling out key patterns, key themes, the key stats. Like, I love it when we find something that isn't what we thought it was going to be as well. Because sometimes, like when you've been doing it a while, there's certain things that you get quite good at guessing. And then sometimes something will come in and it will just kind of throw you off a little bit. And it'll be kind of a new thing that you might not have thought that a certain group would answer that way, but they do. Or like you'll pick out a new kind of pattern that you hadn't seen before. So it's really a lot of fun. But then once I've got all of that, I've kind of compiled all of my findings, like look for any patterns across the two as well, link one to the other. I then kind of pass that back on to you, Dani.
Yeah, and then I have the fun of looking at all of that, kind of chatting with you a lot, and like we do a lot of brain dumping sessions where we literally just offload all the information to one another and I come up with actionable next steps for clients essentially. And yeah, I think as you said, like creators are so great at actually giving us really packaged answers. So quite often there'll be a lot of like really short, quick fire, easy wins for brands that we can immediately feed back on. And sometimes it's working with our strategy team to come up with and implement longer term plans or longer term, like strategies and like marketing campaigns for clients that need a little bit more work and need to be completed over a longer period of time.
Yeah, there's always going to be the low hanging fruit. Is that a marketing buzzword?
Yeah, I feel like we say it a lot. Yeah.
But there's always those like really easy things that can just be like a quick switch or just a little change that can make quite a big difference. And then there's like the bigger scale stuff, isn't there, that just takes a little bit
more time.
Longer.
Yeah, for sure. Insights like generally has been around for a really long time. Like loads of people have been using them, and I think marketing generally has become a lot more data informed, but actually using creators to get those insights is something that's fairly new and like something we don't see a lot of other brands doing really. Do you think this is like going to change? Do you think more brands will look to implement creator insights in the future?
I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't, because like they're just so much more ingrained within their audience. Like they have a fuller understanding of what's going to resonate and on that side of things. And then also I know we've spoken about it quite a lot, but being able to package that up in a way that's like really easy for a brand to act on, I just think that they're the kind of perfect people that you would leverage to get that kind of really in-depth information, because they're kind of heading up their own channels and like have their own followings. And like we say it on the influencer side of PG all the time, that the influencer knows their audience better than anyone. And they're just going to be really ingrained in those communities and just make it really easy for you to kind of tap into and create really like authentic content.
I couldn't agree more. I think as well, obviously, like, I think just marketing generally and like the creator economy is just going to continue to grow. I think we're seeing it more and more, right? Like influencers are like heading up their own brands now. Like Molly May is like doing incredible at the minute, and like there's so many influencers doing that and like building their own brands from scratch. I think it's a really smart way for brands to continue to innovate and to continue to connect with their audiences, and more particularly like younger audiences. I think it's quite difficult for a lot of traditional brands these days to connect with younger audiences and influencers, and having an influencer as the face of your brand now is like an easy way in.
So speaking about kind of growth and innovation, my mind always goes to AI because it's a very hot topic at the minute. How do you think that AI could kind of be used to support this kind of insights, or do you think that humans are just always ultimately gonna win over AI?
A human versus machine.
Yeah.
I think AI is incredibly powerful, and it's obviously got like amazing capabilities that are going to continue to grow and develop over time. Obviously, the more we're inputting into AI, the quicker it will develop and learn. But I think for me, like, human stories are like the most important thing. There's nothing more than I love than sitting down and having that one-on-one conversation with someone and really understanding their experiences and like understanding their challenges and needs, but also the things that work incredibly well for them too. And I think that's where brands can get the most value out of like having those important conversations. And I don't think AI will ever be able to replicate that. I think if it does, we're at a really scary place where we've just lost that human connection. And as incredibly powerful as AI can be and as incredibly helpful it can be, I hope it doesn't ever take away that human to human interaction.
Yeah, because I guess like what we're always wanting and searching for is like authenticity.
Exactly.
And like that's just something that you can't manufacture.
Yeah, exactly. We want that. We want to feel the emotions, you know, like, and that's really important. And for me, like, a really great marketing campaign more generally is when it makes someone feel something, and it doesn't matter what that emotion is, whether it's anger or sadness or like incredible joy and happiness. You have to make someone feel something, and I think that's really difficult to replicate, particularly with AI, because it can't feel. Like, it's just factual information. It's just it doesn't have that emotion tied to it. So yeah, I hope we don't get to a point where we lose all of that.
Nice.
So we've had an incredible conversation here today about all things creator insights, and we've spoken about a lot. I think we've covered a lot as well. But for anyone watching, I think we should do like a quick elevator style wrap up. Okay,
so I would say that insights is tapping into niche communities at scale without losing the nuance of lived experience.
Oh, I really love that. I think that's the perfect way to...
It's a new slogan right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be using that. But yeah, massive thank you for everyone watching. If you have any more questions around anything insights related, please give us an email. And a massive thank you goes out to ID Studios for hosting us. It's an incredibly inclusive space. So if you guys need any podcast studios, get in touch with those guys as well.